Hello and welcome back to Speed Demon Painting. Today we are taking a look at the pre-releases coming for April from Warcradle Studios for Dystopian Wars. 3 new boxes are being added to the range. The first one be the Kika Battle Fleet set, then the Erun Battle Fleet set, which is a name you might remember from the past, and also the squadrons, the aerial squadrons for the Union. The Kika box set is one that is for the Commonwealth, which is their big flying aerial flagship. So they also get their big flyer, like most other factions by now. On top of that, we also have the Erun Battle Fleet set. Now, the Erun as a ship has already been released before. It was in the Hylon, I think, Battle Fleet set before. But this one comes with quite a few exciting new plastics as well. So it's definitely not something old, just rewrapped. And then, of course, there are the Union aerial squadrons. There is already a review up on what you can find on the sprues for those in both the Fortune and Glory set that I have done and the most recent one, the Destiny Battle Fleet set, which was posted about a week or two ago. And the first one we're looking at is the Kika Battle Fleet set, which, as you can see, is this big flagship, along with 2 sky cruisers, the ones that you could find on the aerial squadrons from the Commonwealth, which also comes with one large hovercraft each, for each sprue, I should say, and then 2 extra escorts as well that come along with it. So there's quite a few handy little things in this box. The one thing that has me baffled a bit is the scale of everything, because, well, from the looks of it, either this is a medium-sized base. It sort of looks like it could be, judging from the size of it, the ocean base compared to the other 2, and it looks like they've used a thin flight stem on these as well. So I'm quite curious to see what the size of this sky cruiser is going to be. Now, the Kika is just the first build option that you get for this sky cruiser. You have this one with triple gun battery flying around in a lot of ablative armor to the side here. I'm not entirely sure if it's due to the render, but we might be seeing some resin gun batteries supplied with this ship as well. Because, well, judging from the color, it might just be. Which is a bit odd, because if we're looking at one of the alternate build options, the Krasnaya class heavy sky drill, they sort of revert back to using the plastic color for those turrets. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what this will be when I get my hands on this box. What is pretty obvious, though, is that the front end has been swapped out for the plastic sky drill that can be found on the plastic sprues, of course. And personally, I think this is the version that I think looks best of the 3. It looks very menacing and very dangerous. The fact that it is a much larger hull compared to the drill itself makes it look a bit more realistic compared to the Mass 2 version that they had. And it still comes with these smaller things to the side, so it looks like those ablative armor bits can be swapped out for these extra thrusters as well, which, if I'm not mistaken, aren't thrusters, but can actually drop bombs as well, or at least set something on fire that it is flying over, as if that sky drill wasn't enough yet. And then the third and final build option that you can make with this box is the one that is quite odd, but geniusly executed, I think. The Conestoga class heavy sky cannon. I'm not entirely sure what the rules for this is going to be, but this does look a bit like the Apocalypse cannon that can be found on one of the surface areas of the Commonwealth. And if this is a flying Apocalypse cannon, that's just absolutely brilliant. I also like the fact that it just has more repulsion generators on the side as well. And yeah, if you're aerial, if you play the game, if you're an aerial unit, it is very difficult to hide yourself from firepower coming from aerial units. So if that Apocalypse cannon just has reach across the board, that is going to be very, very nasty. However, there is one downside to being skyborne as well, because most things will be able to shoot at you, so there is no hiding this one from your opposing firepower, so it probably ends up being a bit more balanced that way. Now, if you're up in the sky like that, you're going to attract firepower like there's no tomorrow, but it does seem that this ship is quite well protected against it, with both a shield generator in the front and a magnetic generator protecting you against other aerial attacks, which you can be sure will be coming your way if you've got this devastating weapon pointing towards you. And just in case you didn't know, this is the Apocalypse cannon on the surface units that I mentioned earlier, which is the Richter class Dreadnought. It's even longer in this case, but I can imagine that this entire barrel is just sort of hidden inside of the hull of the skyborne version of it. So yeah, brilliantly well done. I mean, it's going to... we have been playing with this one. It's lovingly referred to as the Compensator class warship in our gaming group, and it is a fun entry. I mean, people get absolutely scared when they see this thing across the board, and sometimes make sort of strategic mistakes because the thing looks quite scary, but sometimes the best option is just eat the big shell for a turn or two until you can actually fire at it to full effect. Instead of just doing crazy maneuvers just to try to get to it in turn one. But yeah, definitely a fun ship to play around with. Now, if you're building the Krasnaya class, the Sky Drill, you probably won't be able to build two of these Irkutsk class sky cruisers, which is something that you can make out of the plastic sprues that come along with it. So if you're making that option, or you're reserving the front end for some handy magnetization, you probably won't be able to make two of them out of this box. Mind you though, as far as I know, I think this is a hollow part, so if you want to magnetize it to fit against a resin hull, I can imagine that you'd have to fill it up with some putty or some plastic sprue beams, sort of that you run across it. Otherwise you probably won't be able to just magnetize it to it. So you probably end up with one of these, at least, the Saransk class skycruiser, which comes with these Katyusha rocket systems aimed at the front. Personally, I think this one is the one that I think looks the sleekest, but there definitely is something to be said for the Tunguska class skycruiser. And again, it remains to be seen what they do with these turrets, and if your ship is going to be cannibalizing some of the turrets that are found on this sprue, because it might mean that you're locked out of one Tunguska class skycruiser as well as an option. Followers of the channel will have noticed that I do quite a lot of these unboxings and reviews, so I'm definitely hoping that Warcradle Studios will be kind enough to send me a review copy, and if they do, be sure that I'll be making a review of this box set as well. So if you're interested in seeing that, make sure that you follow the channel for when that update comes, and if you like this informative style of video, make sure that you hit the thumbs up button as well. It really helps with the channel growth. In addition, this box will also give you two more hovercrafts, and if I'm honest, you can never have enough of those, because the bridge section that comes on these hovercraft is extremely flexible. You get one without that shockwave generator on there as well, but one that has you know, extra options for rocket batteries, etc, etc. So having more of these turrets means that you're not just stuck making hovercraft with it, you can build a few other things as well. So it's always nice to have extra bits for your other Mass 1 vehicles if you get this box too. Because I have to say, in terms of cross-compatibility between the different sprues, the Commonwealth is absolutely one of the top factions where you can do a lot of cross-pollination between the different sprues. So getting a few extra plastics definitely can't hurt with this new box set. Next up, the Empire is also getting some reinforcements, this time with the Erun Battle Fleet box, which comes with the Erun class ship, obviously, but also sees the introduction of two new plastic sprues for the Chinese, which are the Chinese support plastic sprues. And these support plastic sprues seem to be able to build a cruiser, a Mass 2 cruiser one would assume, and also a Mass 1 ship that, from the look of it, is a skimmer for the first time. For both, for the Empire in general, I should say. And this weapon is something that I can't really identify, so we'll be talking about that one in a bit when we're looking at it in detail. In addition, you're also getting some landing tokens, and this is really cool. They have these tanks on there that we have seen teased a while ago for Armored Clash for when the land game comes out, and it's really cool to see it now in an SRS style form with some nice big indentations in the sand as well, which yeah, that makes it look, these things look heavy when you look at the base that comes along with it. Now the big flagship that comes in it is the Erun class assault battleship, like I said, one that was already an option in the Hailong, and it comes with this this dojo style weapon in the front of it, along with a gun battery and a rocket battery, so one can assume those can at least be found on those support sprues as well. Now the really funky thing about it though is the original Hailong Battlefleet set had a draconic sprue on there, largely because of this barracks section, and that seems to be no longer needed, so there's a good chance that this part can also be found on the new Chinese support sprues. And the other build option that you can make out of is the Hylon class strike battleship, which basically swaps out the front for the Ergun to one that has a dual Hokyang, heavy Hokyang if I'm not mistaken. So it's nice that they've included the parts in this one as well, so this set remains flexible too. And just as a memory refresher, this is the Hailong Battlefleet set, which was released a while ago. It does have the same hull for the main flagship, as you can see, but came with that draconic sprue, which was, of course, the Draconic Colossus, and then 3 Gong destroyers to go along, and then a frontline sprue set as well, which came with, well, I think 2 of these small ones, so this picture might not be complete, and of course the Mastu frontline cruiser for the Chinese faction. Now the one thing I'm not entirely sure of, this is the older picture, if you will, of the Hailong Battlefleet, and it comes with an option to swap them out to corrosive mortars. I'm not seeing this one depicted on the new hull, so I imagine there's an option that you might not be getting the corrosive mortar option if you want to build this Hailong class strike ship with these new support sprue, but that is a very minimal difference between the two of them. Now, apart from the flagship, the most exciting bit about this box is the new plastics coming for the Empire, for the Chinese. And the first one that they're showcasing is the Diju class cruiser. Now, this Diju class comes with a weapon that we have seen before, but not yet in plastic. This thing reminds me a lot of the Inferno class cannon that can be found on a new stealth entry, if you will, for the Empire, for the Chinese faction. In case you didn't know, the Ninjing Battlefleet set was updated with this new flagship, the Naraka class option, and they mainly sort of updated the front bit to allow for 2 new types of weapons called Inferno cannons, and yeah, this new version definitely looks like it is mounting these Inferno cannons, but just in plastic nowadays. So yeah, if you want to add more of these blast weapons to your Empire force, you definitely can. And as always, there was a bit of a preview, a bit of a teaser with some contours being released for this as well a few days ago. People thought there was this sort of draconic mount at the back of it, but that's not exactly correct. The back of this ship is this sort of refueling device. It's what it looks like, because I can imagine that this Inferno cannon takes up quite a bit of fuel to sort of keep firing as well. And speaking of new and exciting weapons, it's definitely not just the Inferno cannon that we're getting. This is the Yaoji class cruiser that comes in this new plastic sprue with this big, large-barreled artillery piece, from the looks of it, that comes on top of it. Not entirely sure what this one is going to be, but well, there's no indication of it yet in the current Orbat at least. But it does look cool if you don't want to go for this sort of fiery dragon head. And I'm not entirely sure if this piece will ever be usable on some other flagships as well, because this sort of reminds me of the other artillery ship that the Chinese have access to. And in case you don't know what I mean this, the Erun Sheng Bombard that can be found on the Yangtze class option. The Yangtze has 3 of these different barrels on it, and it looks like this new option is the one that only has 2 of them installed, but even just 2 of them means that it is a frightening amount of firepower, especially if you can take this unit in units of, rather this model, in unit of up to 3. That's a lot of firepower right there, so yeah, Chinese players will be quite happy with the amount of output at range that they now have. And then another option that you can make is the Mekong class cruiser. Now this one comes with a new type of plastic turret on here, and that definitely does look like a Hawkyang to me. So Hawkyang turrets might just become the next big thing for the Empire, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing just how many of them you'll be getting on this support sprue. Because, well, if that's an option for a lot of other entries into the Orbat, you can make some pretty mean flamer battleships and other cruisers as well, which is going to be fun times for the Chinese players. Now, 3 build options would be sort of a minimum you can expect, but looking at the rest of this blog post, there seems to be even more options that you can make as well. The first one being the Wuhan class cruiser. Now, the Wuhan is perhaps a bit maligned these days, but it does look like it is some sort of landing vessel at least, coming with this lovely little crane, large crane bit at the front to support the one in the back. So I'm getting a landing ship vibes from this one, but I'm not entirely sure yet. Again, the Orbat will be updated in about a month's time. On top of that, you get this one, the Lantau class cruiser, and this one seems to have these sort of well, they don't quite use containers in the dystopian age, but it does look sort of close to it, because it looks a bit like those cargo tokens that you can find in the new civilian ships. So I imagine this is more of a utility ship with some logistical support from the looks of it. Again, I'm just guessing. If you've got a good guess, why not mention it in the comments as well? I mean, it'd be lovely to hear what you think of all of this. And then finally, the one that I think will be sort of the bread and butter build, if you will, is this Qiang class cruiser. Now, it seems to come with 2 regular gun batteries, and the regular gun batteries aren't to be underestimated. I mean, they only have 1 dice less in support compared to heavy gun batteries, so having cruiser squadrons of these can be quite strong. And if they come with the flexibility of having turnable Hawkyang turrets on top of that, you could be looking at a very mean little new flagship entry, well, sorry, bread and butter entry for the Empire as well, to supplement, if you will, the other frontline squadrons. And then finally we have the Hexi class hover Zebex. Now, I'm not quite sure what to make of these yet. This does look a bit like a mortar, if you will, but looks significantly different compared to the corrosive mortar we've seen so far. Although it might be a bit redesigned as well, not entirely sure. But yep, we'll have to wait and see what this is. In terms of broadside firepower, it has the regular light broadsides that we've seen in quite a few other Chinese ships, but you know, there's a surprising amount of extra holes on the side of it for extra firepower. So if this one came with cruiser levels of broadsides, that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Whatever, you know, what do you think of the armament though? It is a fun looking little Mass 1 ship at least, because getting some hovercraft does reinforce that sort of feeling that you get of the Chinese being the land force in the dystopian age, and they're the ones who have to do the beach landings within the Empire. And yeah, that sort of gets reinforced if you look at the fact that the landing tokens are very much these Chinese tanks as well. And like I said at the start, I absolutely love the look of these. I mean, they've got these very deep tracks where almost the entire tank has displaced the sort of the waves in the beach, which looks really cool. I mean, I haven't gotten around to painting some of my unique landing tokens yet, but yeah, this looks like you can do some really cool deep shading in those tracks as well. So yeah, it would be nice to have these for review as well. And then lastly, we've got the Union aerial squadrons, which are now available separately. Although I have to say, the amount of Union aerial squadrons that you can get from some of the other box sets is absolutely through the roof. These unit entries have been buffed significantly in the last beta Orbat though, so I did promise last time around that I would do a video about these new entries. I'm still putting that one up after I've done all the editing on the paint guide of these models, but yeah, you can make a really strong all aerial force if you want with the Union, and having this one to supplement it definitely is nice to see. If I got the Destiny class box a few weeks ago, and yeah, that one is just jam-packed with 8 of these guys, but even then you can still go around adding a few extra to them, because, well, they do have these different bridges, so if you want to make specific ones, or specific ships for one faction, yeah, you definitely want to have a difference between the Honorable Eclipse bridge that you can see here, versus the one that they use for the generic Union faction as well. And when I was doing a bit of a look at the new rules for these Steward class Sentry airships definitely caught my eye because of the new Valor effect that they can use, because these have been buffed significantly, acting as heat lances as well for the Imperium, normally firing at crippled state, but now they can fire at full heat lance setting if you use a Valor effect for them. And with these there's options to get your cards back with the Union, so definitely a bit of fun combo play that you can do with those as well. And that was it largely for the new releases coming in April, but before I wrap this up, there is this one cool thing I would like to point you to. There was Adepticon last week, and the lovely folks over at Warcradle, Stuart and Chris, went over across the big pond to the United States this time around to support the people from Gadzooks Gaming, which is the big distributor and big web shop as well, where you can find all of your stuff if you happen to live in the United States, Canada, or you know, the other side of the pond, as I like to call it. However, there was some cool things that can be found, which is a bit of a sneak preview of what is to come next month. They had this lovely big banner here at the top, which is probably something we'll be seeing very soon, if not next month. And this is the big Vauban carrier coming for the Alliance as well, which yeah, definitely is more fun stuff to be looking forward to. So they're definitely not running out of steam yet for the dystopian age and for dystopian wars in general. And with that, also a shout out to Mike Pierce, my fellow war host, who was running demos all day and who is no doubt knackered after such an exciting weekend. It really is one of those shows that I do hope to attend one day if I ever can make it to the United States. And that was it for the pre-orders for this month. Is there anything that you are particularly looking forward to? I'd love to hear from you in the comments as well. I mean, I definitely like the fact that the Chinese are getting more surface ships and yeah, getting some support ships as well, fleshing out this this faction. And a big flyer for the Russians is of course absolutely lovely. I will be doing a new video on the paint guides for the Union aerial units as well, using the Destiny for it, but if you want to see a cool way, and a fast way as well, I might add, to paint up these Union squadrons, I do hope to see you in the next video. Until then, bye!